Good evening. I think we'll just start off by welcoming you all here. I think there's a few more than I anticipated, but then again, after this week, I don't know if you can anticipate anything. Just to put a little bit of meat on the bones and a little bit of background to why we are here. We sat here maybe mid to end of April. Similar situation, question and answer session, and we all knew then that we was going to cut the budget for this season. That was fact. We sat here and said it was going to be 20%. That was fact. So all the rumours, all the rubbish and everything else that's going around some of the social networking sites, you read into that what you will, because I'm not bothered to read it anymore. The budget cut was 20%, we know that. That was agreed, and on that basis, Dick agreed to stay for 12 months, the next 12 months. Unfortunately, he had a change of heart for various reasons that I'm not going to go into. I had a long chat with Dick on Saturday, and everything is amicable between him and myself. No animosity amongst the club, and you will see him in and out of here next season as a spectator. As we all know, I got a phone call probably last Tuesday morning about 10 o'clock from Dick saying, very sorry, but I'm going to resign. You can imagine how I felt at that stage. We had a chat, he gave me his reasons why. Some of them will remain to myself, some of them you've already read in the papers. What I will say is, and I'll have it on record, I would personally like to thank Dick, and I think the board also would like to thank Dick for the work he has done all the time he's been at the club, on the 2 or 3 times he's been here, and especially the last season and a half when he took charge. Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. So, last Tuesday morning, as I said, I got the phone call. My first reaction when I put the phone down was, no children in here. No children in here, but yeah, apart from, oh fuck, where do we go from here? And that basically was, I really didn't know what to do. I picked the phone up to Kelly, and seeing Dick had already given me the word that we'd leave it 48 hours before he said anything, as I came off the phone to Kelly 10 minutes later, it was all over Twitter. 1 minute. 1 minute after I put the phone down, it was all over Twitter. So I immediately got back on the phone to Dick and said, mate, you promised me you wouldn't speak to anybody. I haven't. So what do you mean you haven't spoken to anybody? It's all over Twitter. Well, I've only spoken to the squad. That's where it went. That's where it came from. So, bearing that in mind, we really had to act quick. Now, I've told Dick, so it's nothing new that's coming out. I wasn't convinced when he said he was going to stay that he would stay. That was never, I really wasn't convinced it was going to happen. So we put a short list of people together in the meanwhile amongst ourselves, and Brett was one of the ones on the list. Tuesday morning at 10:30 I picked the phone up to him, and despite what you read on any of the social networking sites, I had the answer by 8:30 Thursday night that he was going to accept the position. But he asked me to give it 24 hours so that he'd go back to Yaxley and say to them, in person, I'm going to Wisbech. So I was expecting a phone call about 1 or 2 o'clock on the Friday. At about 11:30, Brett phoned me and said, okay, he said, job's done, I'm all yours. I said, how did the conversation go? He said, bit downhearted really. He said, I've been sacked. And the reason he was sacked on the Friday morning, not the Wednesday night or the Thursday night, it was Friday morning, was because he'd been talking to us here at Wisbech and hadn't turned down the offer straight away. So we are where we are now. Brett is now in the hot seat. I think over the last 7 or 8 days, even with his weekend away, he hasn't stopped. What I'd like to do now, and hopefully he's standing on the other side of the door, is to get him in. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Brett Whaley. Several people tonight have said, where's the cakes, where's the buffet, where's everything else? So, the first thing we do, Brett, there's a cake. I'm not going to drop it. Thank you very much. Maybe going to start cutting it off. Okay, what I want to do then now is just hand it over to Brett. I think he's going to bring the players in. Some of them you will know, some of them you won't. So, Brett, over to you.
Yeah, just first, I'd like to say thanks for the welcome. It's been, obviously it's been a real busy week. Well, not quite a week yet, but it seems like a bit longer. I'm sure Malcolm's explained the decision and how it all happened. And it was, really nice to be welcomed so much in the football club. The reality is, I know it's all about results, so we'll see how things go. But we've got most of the squad here that can be here tonight, a couple on holiday, etc. And two of the new signings in Luke Kipler and Butcher as well. So get the opportunity to meet them. And I think John and Cuzzy will be part of this if you want to ask them any questions as well. So whenever they're ready.
Brett's gone a bit camera shy, I don't want to say anything else. Basically what we're going to do now is open up to you lot, questions, answers. We'll try and be as honest and open as we can. Certainly some things will not be answered, but I will answer what, if and as we can. So, over to you.
I like to look at what is on the cards. But what concerns me is a centre forward, someone with a bit of meat on the back.
Yeah, although Pat was training.
I think we've got obviously some of the squad in place. There is still players that we're obviously still looking at. It is only a week. I'll be honest with what we've got now. I think we've got 12, maybe 13 first team squad. We're still looking to add in midfield and another forward on board. We want to do it so that we can play different ways. At the minute, the squad looks strong, but just not enough depth. The reality is, if we do well in cups, we just haven't got enough bodies yet. We hope to operate with 15, 16, like I said. So centre forward is still something that we're looking to bring in. But the reality is, centre forwards cost the most money. So we're still looking, and hopefully, because we've got the group we've got now, people are now becoming interested in the joining. So I'm hopeful that should be done in the next couple of weeks as pre-season starts.
Malcolm, being a mere boy, I don't understand everything naturally.
Do you want to come sit here with me?
Why do we need a goalkeeper coach? In the paper, you reckon we've got one of the best goalkeepers in the...
I wouldn't choose to use someone.
So why do we need a goalkeeper coach?
Well, the intention of the training obviously is to work hard with all the squad. Goalkeeper's very specialist, and what we've found in the past, Butch obviously when he has been with me actually for 3 years, and before that, first 2 seasons he just joined the training session. And realistically they stand between them in the goal, and they don't get anything specialist for them. It's in effect a completely different position obviously to any others. The boys will be working on obviously technique stuff, shape stuff, all that. It doesn't really relate to goalkeepers. They are a bit special, and so they do need a little bit more attention. And what it does mean by bringing Minty into the club as a coach is we can coach first team, reserves, under 18s, and potentially some younger keepers as well. So it's not just for the first team element. Minty's also been around this league for a long time, so we part of the management team specifically to work with Aaron and the reserve team goalkeeper, because it is such a specialist position, so that's what we put on there.
And the club can afford it.
He's come for nothing, he doesn't know that yet. So yeah.
Yes.
Over the last couple of seasons, we've lost about 100 or so supporters from a regular Saturday game. And personally, I just think that some of the admission prices, particularly for the concessions, is a little bit too high and puts off the younger people and the older ones. Is there any sort of consideration to reducing the concession prices or doing something different to attract people into the game?
There is thoughts in that way at the moment. Nothing's cast in stone yet, but it is something that will be up for discussion at next board meeting. That's all I can say at the moment. I can't say whether it will go one way or the other, but it's on for discussion.
Question for Brett. If in 3 years' time we're having this same conversation, and you've obviously got ideas as to where you think the club and how it can develop, in 3 years' time, if you could sit back and say, well, yes, we've gone this far and I'm satisfied with that, what would we have done as a club, player-wise?
In player-wise or the club?
Well,
in terms of where we want to be, obviously I made the decision to leave Yaxley, which is a good and established UCL club. I felt I'd taken it as far as I could, and I think a top-end UCL club is as good as they could be. The reality to come here is, I think the club has the potential to go much further. If you look at the size of the club is based on the support and the people around the club, and that's why I think at the moment, with Rushden now gone, I think this is the biggest club around the area. So, in terms of UCL clubs, so where we can go, I don't want to get too far ahead of things, because if you start looking 3 years down the line, you do lose sight of the fact that we need to start pretty well. But there's no reason why we can't challenge at the top end of this division straight away. And we do want to go up. It was one of the first questions I asked Malcolm and the board. There was no point in me moving from one UCL club to another one that wants to stay in the UCL. You know, we do want to progress. It's not going to be easy, but we know that, you know, we've got a good group of players. We obviously will continue to try and work and add with them. Longer term, we need to continue to work with Danny and the reserves to bring the next batch through. And like I said, if you start looking too far down the line, you lose track. But when we talk about the young side they've got there currently with the reserve team, 2-3 years of a bit of experience, they hopefully will be quite loyal and local players, and that always helps with budget, etc. You get, you know, football at this level and any level is judged by finances. That you can't win this league without a budget, and that goes without saying. So it will depend on where we are financially as to how far we can go. But I would hope as we win more games and challenge to win cups, leagues, and potentially get promoted, as the crowd goes up, the budget takes care of itself, sort of thing. So, like I said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think we could go and challenge to be a step forward club at least. I think it's one of those things, and I hear a lot of people say that it's been a sleeping giant around the area or around this level. I think once momentum goes here, it has potential to really kick on, but we've got to get that momentum going. If you look last season, and I talked with some of the players here from last year, 11th of November, and you look what happened when that momentum came, that winning run with such a small group of players came from momentum. I'm sure the buzz around the place got going, that would have transmitted itself to the pitch. So it's kind of a two-way thing. So we've said tonight it's about us getting started early, give people something to cheer about when that starts happening, you know. But I've come from a club where they had struggled with attendances. A lot of UCL clubs do. A lot of clubs at this level are really struggling to get people through the gate. This club doesn't have as much of a problem, and I know the question is the attendances have dropped slightly. It's still an attendance that a lot of clubs would love to have. It doesn't mean we shouldn't aspire to have more, but it's got the base here. So hopefully, as players and managers, we can start well, and then the crowds will increase and the momentum can come from there. So I wouldn't like to say how far we've got or how long it's going to take us, but the intention is we want to start straight away, and we intend to be challenging at the top end of this league, and we want to get out of this league. So that's kind of where my focus is.
If we won the league this year, then we will definitely go up.
What I said at the last fans forum race still stands. If we're in a position in November where we are in a position to go for it, we will go for it. And that still stands.
That's definitely.
It still stands.
Yeah. We are that full.
You're not heard it from me.
The football insurance, you can't draw enough people in to the ground, because people through the gate. Is there any plans for other entertainments within the club to draw in money?
There is, I mean, at the moment, the social side of things is picking up. It's holding its own. The last couple of months before the season finished, I think Steve will back me up on this, it was virtually holding its own enough to pay the wages. Yeah? There is more stuff planned. There's, if you look behind the bar, there's an advert up there for July the 17th for a men only evening. £15 a ticket, so they're in my back pocket tonight. You're all having one. Not for free, for 15. But yes, there is a lot more social side things planned. Oh, we've got the pool table now. We're going to have pool teams in here. We've got a new darts team coming in for the next season in the Super League.
Quiz night tomorrow.
Sorry?
Quiz night tomorrow.
Quiz night tomorrow night. So yes, there is lots of things planned and lots more things in the pipeline. The other thing, do you say it's this Friday or next Friday, Mandy, you start to open on Friday?
At the end of June.
Right, the end of June, when the loco shots, Mandy's going to open up here on a Friday tea time, all the way through for a trial period, see how it goes. So, you know, this is going to be... What we're trying to do is get as many people down here and get this place used as much as possible, because it is underutilised. There's not enough money coming in behind the bar to keep this place surviving. There is lots of things, as I say, there's lots of things in the pipeline. There's Fun Day planned here on the end of June, 27th, Mandy? Yeah. Yeah? Fun Day, 27th?
of June.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a good family day. It's well advertised, I believe. So, yes, and if anybody has any ideas or wants anything extra putting on, yeah, everybody's approachable. Yeah? Put your ideas there. Nobody's going to say, piss off, it's not a good idea. We'll listen to anything and everything to get money into the club. The more money we have, the better we can make this place. Yeah? Any more?
Yes, Mark, another thing I'd like to say, I'd like to thank the players who we had last year for being loyal and staying with us.
Did you mean them up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, just on that as well. It's obviously the week when I came in, obviously a couple of lads left, and all that, and obviously some went higher, some went more local to themselves. A lot of things were said about it, but that's this level of football, players move. It was obvious. It's been talked a lot about in terms of budget cuts, etc. The discussion about money with all the lads that I spoke to didn't come into it. It was never, you know, they're tough conversations when you talk about money and ask people to take cuts, etc. It was never a question. It was always, I want to play for Wisbech. It's something I've not experienced before, because it's, you know, they want to play for the football club. And I think, you know, when we're bringing people in, they are coming to play for the football club now. They're not coming for money. It might have been in the past where there was more money here, and that there would have been players that would have come back. Certainly wasn't the case last year, because you saw the togetherness of the group. And I think now we've got lads who do want to stay, they want to play here, and that should hopefully transmit itself on the pitch. I hope people who will watch would see people who put the shirt on and want to play for the shirt. And I've not had it where players is, yeah, or whatever goes. It is usually, and it is hard at this level of football, people will move for a final more, and that's just the way it goes. It hasn't happened here, because every one of them, especially last week, phone would have been ringing off, and that's the fact of the matter, is because people would have seen there was an unrest here. But the boys obviously, they want to stay here, so it's nice to see, and the communication with lads coming in it's not how much are you going to give me to come to Wisbech, it's
No.
I want to be part of what you're doing there. So, you know,
I think you've done a good job to get them to stay here.
well,
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the names are very impressive, who you've already brought in, you know, local players, very impressive.
yeah, I think it's, I suppose, I've been at this level for the 3 years I've been here, and obviously you get to know players that have worked for me. Obviously, with Lee leaving, we knew we had to replace the goalkeeper. There's other lads that we've had to replace. The reality is you can't replace some. Josh Ford scored a lot of goals. To get someone who gets you that many goals is difficult to replace. You lose Tommy as well, so you go from 3 strikers to 1, so you have to replace that. You all know how good Billy and Spaff was, and they've obviously had the opportunity to step up, which proves that. So it is hard to replace them, especially when you're 20% lower. But the reality is, this club is still a big pull, and people, I'm being able to offer. Everyone talks about the money and where the club is with finances. I'm able to offer what I was offering at a club in Peterborough to a Peterborough lad, and they're not bothered about the travelling cost because they want the opportunity. Football in Peterborough at the minute, with the clubs around the area, Holwich have a decent, support. Peterborough clubs don't have people going to watch them, maybe because of posh, but at this level, sides are getting 30, 40 people through the door. And after a while, players want more than that. They're at this level, and if they can experience more, a crowd behind them. And Butch will tell you, Hippie will tell you, you obviously came to our place and turned us over last year, and you can hear... Yeah, didn't deserve to turn us over, we did. But the reality is, the noise that was made when the winner went in, we never experienced that. We might have got them winners in other games, but we didn't experience that. And players want to be in that type of environment. So it is easier to get players across if they want to play in this. And if they don't, well, they're maybe not the ones to add to this group anyway.
Don't forget Danny sitting in the back here if you've got any questions for the reserves. Les.
But it is in relation with the reserves actually. I'd like to ask the manager your view on a reserve team feeding your first team. Because I got the feeling last year that it didn't really happen. And will some of your first team players sign registration forms for the reserve side so that it works the other way round?
Yeah, I think
what your view is.
Well, I spoke to Danny last week, and I've heard obviously some really good things about the players he's got within his group. Danny, obviously, reserve team manager is the hardest job at the club because your aim is to get a good team, to lose that team, and then you have to replace it with more. That's just the way that goes. And people, if you're not the right mentality, it's a bit of a thankless task, but he obviously wants to get his lads on. In my opinion, if you sign for the club, you sign for both, and I think I would hope to have the more registration. There is some complications, I believe, about the amount of players Danny can have in his People League side if play higher, but I wouldn't envisage a group going at the same time. It's just how we manage that situation. And as I said to Danny, I think the important thing is, as long as we talk between ourselves, then players are getting the same messages. I think that's something that needs to happen. One thing, and we've spoken about it, is at the minute for a young lad to jump from Peterborough Division 1 up to UCL Prem is a big jump. So much as I'm not saying the lads aren't ready for that, the sooner we can get that gap closer,
You've got to get
the better it will be and the better opportunity the boys will have. In terms of how close we'll be, Danny starts on Tuesday, pre-season. From next Saturday, the whole group will train together throughout pre-season. We've talked about during the season that we'll continue to do that, but what that will mean is after the initial warm-up and basic sessions, then the groups will split. But I would hope that all the first team squad will get to know Danny and Nick and Mel as well, and I get to know all those players as well. You don't make any promises to anybody, but if the boys are showing willing, during pre-season they will get an opportunity to get involved. And you know, at the end of the day, I said I'm running with 15, 16. There will always be suspensions and injuries. I don't envisage going to loan players in for a game if there's lads ready and good enough to come up. The flip side of that is they have to be ready, because otherwise, you know, you put them in too early and they can go backwards. But that will be on Danny's advice, not he knows the boys and their mentality and what they're ready to and not ready to do. But if we're going to achieve it long term, we need to make sure from when the under-18s is back running, there's a pathway for the lads to come through. I have mentioned that, and I've spoken to Danny about taking a bit more responsibility in that. So Danny hopefully will oversee whoever comes in to run the under-18s, so that a young lad coming here from 16, 17 will be, we have someone they know all the way through, and we'll be, first team manager can't know everybody from reserves, under-18s, everybody, but if you've got somebody there to say, this boy's doing well, keep your eye on that. And likewise, if I've got players who need games, or come back from injury, they will get their time with Danny to get that sharpness. If you've been out 4 or 5 games, you can't just come back, because what happens is you sit on the bench and then that's 6, 7 games. So 90 minutes gives you some good. So that's the way I would envisage it. There might be clubs come in and want to take players on loan, but they're all individual cases, so it depends how it's going to be. If it's just match fitness for 1 game, then the drop-in level doesn't matter, because they're not useful. So that's how I envisage it works.
Can I ask you again, through yourself, how Danny's getting on with recruitment of players for his reserves?
Well, I think Danny has it. I think he's starting early.
Danny's there.
Never had a problem with that.
I was trying to find some in the car park. No, not very well.
How are you getting on with recruitment of players for next season?
We're doing alright. We didn't need too many. I don't think we needed too many.
No, but you've not lost any or anything like that?
No, haven't lost any. I'm in the process of speaking to 2 or 3. One stands there now. Whether he make a commitment and come over, it's up to him. But no pressure. No
Okay, we've got any more?
Yeah, we've still got the Bransman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Malcolm, Brett Whaley's team.
Yeah.
Are they still here?
The ladies are still here for next season, as far as I'm aware.
Brett, I understand you had connections with Peterborough Academy. Have you still?
Well, I know the first team manager now, I never used to, because obviously I worked for Robbo when he was there, so he's not as approachable as he used to be, though he's got the first team
So
job.
will you still got connections with the Lucy?
Yeah, yeah.
So if we had 8 injured one week, you could draft.
We can ask.
Jack Friend, you know.
Yeah, maybe I'm low.
Any more for any more? Richard?
Would you just introduce the folks we don't know?
Yes.
New players?
Obviously, I said Ian Jackson behind me, he's the goalkeeper coach. Luke Hipwell on the right, and Aaron Butcher is on the left. So they're the 2 that have come across.
It'll be there with
Anybody else?
Just one thing, can I just ask Brett if he could bring £2 every week to everybody?
So that's as far as you go with that £2.
And the players. Only the player
Anybody else? We all done?
Season tickets are still on.
Just a reminder to everybody, there is still chance to get season tickets at discounted rates. So if anybody wants to top up some money and to get one, feel free.
Just before we finish then, Brett's just saying he is sticking around. If anybody wants to ask him questions on a one-to-one, sorry? Patrick, behave yourself. So, you know, he's going to be around. If anybody wants to ask questions on a one-to-one basis, feel free. Apart from that, let's hope we have a good season.